Alright guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another video, and we're throwing it back with this one, not like that. But we're throwing it back with the EZA Fizz Final Form Cooler, considering how many good Final Form Cooler units we have now. You know, you have the LR, you also have the EZA for the Strength one. We're going to take it back when this guy was one of the best EZAs in the game, still one of the best EZA 120 leads however, and he has level 10 links, and we are going to be running him on the Wicked Bloodline 200% lead. I was going to run him on the Terrifying Conquerors 200% lead with the LR Final Form Cooler. However, with this guy, the Strength 1 and the 2 LR Final Form Coolers doing as much damage as they do, probably not the best idea. So we have him on the Wicked Bloodline 1. Of course, you can run him on that 200% lead with LR Final Form Cooler and also like Turles as a support, which would probably work a whole lot better. But again, I'd probably fly through it if that was the case. We're not actually starting off too badly in terms of a rotation. What links do we lose? We lose Metamorphosis. What are we getting with Metamorphosis at level 10? Attack and defense plus 10%, which we probably want to keep. So yeah, we also do have the Wicked Bloodline support. So with no build up, because of course the Fizz Final Form Cooler does need to attack 10 times in total, because he gets attack and defense plus 8% with each attack performed, up to 80%. He needs to attack a total of 10 times to fully build up his passive. So we're just starting with the raw 120 right now, some support, and we're missing Shocking Speed and Universe's Most Malevolent. Shocking Speed has given us an extra key plus, I think 2 in attack defense plus 5%, yeah. And then Universe Most Malevolent, we're missing in a big attack plus 20%. So we're not even starting out the strongest he can possibly be. And with the support and no build up, 412k attack stat pre-super, just over 200k defense. With support, considering how viable units are like the EZA Transforming Cooler, which, you know, you may not actually transform him from the entirety of like Red Zone, so you keep stacking defense, which means he's always supporting. Having this type of defense immediately without stacking up with Cooler is actually a possibility. The same with Turles as well. But 200k defense with no build up and support, it's actually pretty good to start with turn 1. I say pretty good, that's actually very good to start with turn 1, considering he hasn't been building up his passive whatsoever. But I'm looking forward to this, because as I said, we've had some great Final Form Cooler units. Of course, the new LR is amazing, one of the best units in the game. The EZA Transforming Final Form Cooler is the best EZA in the game. And at one point, the Fizz Final Form Cooler was also one of the best EZAs in the game and one of the best EZA 120 leads. So let's not forget about him, because I reckon he can still be viable. We're starting off a 4 million attack stat. Don't forget, we are missing Universe's Most Malevolent. That's his first attack. There's 2. We need to do 8 more. Fortunately, we couldn't get the dupe system additional, so we missed out on the third. But that is 2 attacks down out of the full 10. And we need to do 8 more. But considering he's only literally, as I said, literally just started building up his passive, 4 mil's not a bad place to start. And again, we are missing Universe's Most Malevolent, which, considering you can get that with the Transforming Strength Cooler while getting support, that's pretty nutty of a rotation. Obviously, there's not really a slot 1 unit in there. Once, you know, the strength one's, you know, stacked a bit, sure, you could probably go in slot 1. It might be a little bit risky, but with an item, he should be somewhat okay. However, that support from the EZA Transforming one, along with having Universe Most Malevolent, you're probably talking like close to a 5 million attack stat before he's even started building up. Okay, so we've lost Metamorphosis, but I'm going to put him in slot 1. And without support, we're literally just under a 200k attack stat. So two build-ups in the passive, no support, almost 200k, which is still relatively decent. Again, considering he needs to fully build up and he's only done it twice out of a total of 10 times, and he's missing a couple of his important links. It's not bad. 3.9. 3.9. Again, not the ideal rotation we want with this Final Form Cooler. There's 2, so we're now 4 in. 4.1 we're up to. We should now have over 200k defense. Can we get the dupe system 1? No. So we're 4. We're 4 down. We need 6 more. He's still starting off in a pretty good spot. Pretty good spot. And of course, we have one of the most important links an extreme unit can have active, which is of course big bad bosses at level 10 links. Obviously, as I said, one of the most important links for an extreme type unit, because you lose that HP condition. So having that active, with the fact he needs to build up his passive, and also factoring in of who you can link him with, whether you have him on main rotation to build him up, or you say, for example, you took him into Red Zone and you decided to build him up, you know, floating, and, you know, you safely build him up, or kind of try keep him out of harm's way and build him up before you potentially bring him on main rotation if you were going to use him in a place like red zone, which is actually not a bad idea. You know, he could be, not only will he have like big bad bosses active, which is very helpful of kind of giving him some coverage and having that active immediately while he builds up his passive, but as I said, there's also viable support units, as I said, like the transforming cooler, who can go on rotation, who you want on main rotation, so he can be stacking his defense the entire time, which again kind of covers the fact he needs to build up his passive, you know, so he has some sort of acceptable defense, because obviously he doesn't raise defense on SA effect, there's no 30% on super, no 50%, it's just all what he gets from his passive in the build up. So having that support while he floats, and you build him up while floating off in red zone, is actually a pretty sensible idea, and it would actually probably work really well. But now we have the rotation we're looking for, which is every single link active, apart from shocking speed. Again, that's only 5% defense, so we're not missing out on a whole bunch. And we do have that support of attacking defense plus 50% for facing one enemy, which is, I think, is it the transformation boost or terrifying conqueror support? I always forget. Transformations boost support. So with what, 4 build-ups, all of the important links apart from shocking speed active, because it's not really, I said it's only 5% defense, key plus 2. 4 build-ups, the links and the support, which again, this is viable, because as I said, you could keep this guy untransformed, constantly stacking up his defense, so he could constantly, I mean, we're going to lose it, but it doesn't really matter. You saw the stats. I missed the defense, but it's okay. It's okay. I missed the defense, but you would have seen it. You know, his defense was over 200k. But, you know, as I said, it's viable because you can keep this guy untransformed, just stacking his defense in, like, red zone. Which, as I said, covers this guy while he's building up his passive. But now we've lost the support. I didn't actually mean to do that, but it doesn't really matter too much. Because now we still have all the, like, every single link active, apart from shocking speed. Without the support, 535k attacks there again with 6 stacks up in his passive, and still 240k defense. So without support, he still has 240k defense. And he's only built up his passive 4 times. 5.2, that's still pretty good. That is still pretty good. Can we get an additional? Yep, we're up to 6. 4 more attacks, and he's still fully built up, but he's looking solid. He's looking very, very solid. Very solid. Again, considering the units that can surround him, again, you have the support for potentially LR Final Form Cooler's 200% lead with Turles. There's also, of course, the transforming EZA Cooler, who can both go on the Wicked Bloodline. And again, don't forget all the LR Meta Cooler healing as well, which is obviously very helpful, especially if you have 2 of them. There's also the support from the transforming Cooler, linking almost perfectly, aside from shocking speed with him. You know, also, he may not link as well. You're probably looking at like 3 to 4 links. But once he gets fully built up, he's going to be fine, or still performing somewhat decent. You have Golden Freezer units next to him as well, who can sit in slot 1 while he's building up his passive in slot 2 if you were going to run him on main rotation. Or of course, as I said, there's the more sensible option, which is put him in slot 3 because he has the built-in additional, which has a 30% chance to come in a super attack in his passive. You know, it's a unit that came out in 2017, so a lot of us probably have dupes in him. You know, that's going to help him build up his passive. You can safely build up his passive in slot 3 again while he's linking to great units like, you know, the transforming Cooler. You know, potentially LR Meta Cooler if you have him on main rotation. You know, other freezer units. He's another unit that's surrounded by some very good units when it comes to harder content. You know, Tech Genemba with the support as long as you get the right orbs. LR Genemba as well. But realistically, you obviously wouldn't link them 2 together. But so far, he's performing quite well. This freezer has shocking speed. So how much defense do we have with shocking speed active? We have... I'm pretty sure his defense got lowered. Yeah, his defense got lowered. That's really annoying. And annoyingly, we can't get the key to actually super, so hopefully we can get 2 additionals this turn rather than just the 1. And we are, I think, 6 attacks built up, so we need to do 4 more. So there's 7. 6.2 million attacks. That's pretty nice. Can we get another one? No, unfortunately not. Only the 1 additional. And of course, when he's fully built up and doing his pinnacle of damage and having his, you know, the best defense he can have and get to, just like a lot of the other Final Form Cooler units, yes, it's not as much, and yes, he doesn't have no SA effects, and compared to the EZA transforming one and also the LR, he doesn't stack on super. However, the fact that he has a built-in additional that's a 30% chance of becoming a super attack, and again, you're more likely or most likely to have dupes in this guy, means he has the possibility to super attack 3 times in 1 turn, which obviously is very helpful at building up his passive, yes, but when he's fully built up and doing the pinnacle of his damage, that's 3 potential super attacks in 1 turn, which again, another final form cooler unit that is doing great amounts of damage in 1 turn against an enemy. Yes, it's not the 4 that the LR can do and potentially more with dupes. Yes, it's not the 4 that the, you know, the strength one can possibly do if his dupe system comes off. Yes, it's 1 less, and again, he doesn't stack on super, which means they're not constantly getting stronger and stronger and stronger every time. But still, as a collective, that's still a lot of damage. You know, whether he's floating, whether you have him on one of the main rotations, the amount of damage you can do in a turn or between turns is kind of ridiculous. You know, if you run 2 LR final form coolers, imagine all the super attacks you do with him, potentially some crits. Imagine the amount of super attacks you can do with the transforming one, again, potentially crits, especially if we're facing a pure Saiyan enemy where he's going to crit all the time. And then if this guy super attacks even twice, but potentially and ideally 3 times, can you imagine how much damage you can do potentially in 1 turn or between rotations, especially with 2 LR final form coolers, this guy and the EZA transforming one? That's a lot of damage to be done. Again, whether this guy is on main rotation or even floating, that is a lot of damage to do as a whole. So while he may not be on their level, he's still performing incredibly well. So we do have some support again from the tech Wicked Bloodline support cooler. We're 7 attacks down. So with 7 attacks down and support, of course we've now unlowered our defense. With the support we have 338k defense, which is pretty nice. Again, he still needs to get a few more attacks in before he's fully built up. 756 pre-super. It's looking good. It's looking good for him. It is looking good for him. I would say the only downside to this guy in 2022, 7.4 with the support. And again, that's a possibility. The support is a possibility. So there's 8 attacks. Can we get the dupe system additional? No, we still need to do 2 more. So a turn, maybe 2 turns more, and he'll be fully built up. And we can see what he's really doing at his very best, at his pinnacle. But I said it's viable. The support rotations are viable. As I said, Turles is good enough to run in harder content now. Although you probably want to avoid getting a super attack with him. But again, there's items, but he's still viable. And of course, there's the transforming cooler again, who you can transform him if you want to. And again, he'll link pretty much almost perfectly aside from shocking speed with the Fizz final form cooler. But it's also a viable option to not transform him whatsoever. So not only you keep the support, but more importantly, so that cooler's constantly still stacking defense. So, I mean, you can obviously still have a viable support rotation. It's not just showcases, you can see that. And we're going to get the Dokkan as that next turn as well. So we're going to have to pay attention to the bottom half of the screen. And I said that support helps as well. Especially if you do run him with the EZA transforming cooler, because then, as I said, it can kind of make up for the fact that he needs to build up. And it takes 10 times, which that's kind of the only downside is you may not have, or it's not ideal to be needing to do 10 attacks. Yes, the additionals help, and obviously the extra additional if you have dupes in them. And ideally, obviously, you want them popping off. But considering how hard Red Zone can hit straight away, especially some of the more harder phases like Cooler Army, Cooler Core. However, he does have type advantage against Cooler Army, to be fair. So that would actually help him. Especially because you can't kill them and you're in there for 3 turns. That would actually help him in terms of building up. But, you know, you got Broly, who after the second phase can potentially kill you. Omega can catch you out, especially because his second phase is strength, where he has type disadvantage. The fact he needs to build up 10 times in his passive, although again the additionals do help, means he can be a slight liability if he does get caught quite early on with a super. But as I said, the support from this guy untransformed can kind of help that a little bit. However, it's not ideal. I would say that's probably his only current downside that I'm seeing. But yeah, I think 2 more attacks and he's fully built up. No support, 730 pre-super, 327k defense, which is decent. I wouldn't say it's completely Red Zone level. Again, if he had like a super attack effect where he raised defense, then yeah, even just 30% would help him out a whole lot. But still, he's still looking pretty good for harder content. And what's that at the bottom? 7.2 million. So I'm pretty sure it's 2 more attacks and he's fully built up. I'm pretty sure it's 2 more attacks and he's fully built up. So hopefully we do get those additionals come off. Considering he has type of edge, this Dokkan attack is going to do a whole bunch of damage. Like, a whole bunch of damage. Especially if he gets a crit. 11 mil damage. There's 2. He should be fully built up by now. And of course, we don't get the additional where I can see it straight away. We're going to have to wait one more turn. We're going to have to wait one more turn. That's so annoying. But he's still performing very well. Level 10 Lynx on a 200% lead. He's still performing very well. And he hasn't even been fully built up yet. We're going to see that in 2 turns time. He's not even fully built up yet. And he's still performing very well. His damage output is still very good. Again, the fact he could potentially super attack 3 times in 1 turn with the built-in additional with the 30% chance of becoming a super, and then potential of a dupe system additional. He can do a bunch of damage in 1 turn. Again, especially when you combine that with the EZA cooler and also the LR. The amount of damage you can do as a whole is generally ridiculous. However, I think defensively, and again, especially because he doesn't have an SA effect and how hard red zone hits, I do think defensively, even fully built up, even though we haven't seen it yet, because he has no SA effect and it's purely what he gets from his passive, which is pretty much once the passive is fully built up, attack and defense plus 200%. Defensively for red zone, he's not going to be ideal. You know, he's not going to be ideal. I do think he could still be run there. However, he's going to be one of them units that does provide, because as I've said many times before, red zone, you still need to do the big numbers. You still need to do a lot of damage to actually kill the bosses. And obviously you need to survive. But I don't think his defense is going to be on the level to kind of suit red zone. But he's still viable in there. You would just have to be very lucky that he doesn't get caught with a super and kind of use your items wisely around him. But let's check his defense. He should be fully built up now. So we're getting a shocking speed link active with this Frieza. And he's on 338k defense. And without it, he is on 327k defense. Yeah, fully built up. His defense isn't ideal for red zone. Like, you're talking, you're going to need like 500k. You know, if he raised his defense on super, like greatly raised his defense, then we're talking a whole different story. His defense, unfortunately, wouldn't be enough for red zone. I think if you floated him, considering how much damage he can do, again, especially with all the potential of them additionals coming off, he could still work. You would just have to be very careful and lucky that he doesn't get caught and have items active. 7.2 though, no support. 7.2, no support, and an additional. Yeah, he's definitely fully built up. And again, considering how old he is, the amount of dupes you will have in him, especially if you're also hitting crits as well. His damage output is very impressive. Very impressive. However, his defense isn't up to red zone level. I do have to admit, unfortunately, his defense isn't up to red zone level. But considering how much damage he's doing and how good his damage output is, I would say he's somewhat viable for red zone. But you would have to be very careful bringing him, unfortunately. Because of how much I love his EZA and how much I really liked it when it first initially came out, because of how good he was. Kind of upsetting, you know, that he's a bit of a risk in red zone. I mean, we're dead here. I mean, we didn't do the support rotation, but with support, you're looking at like close to 8 million attack stat, almost 400k defense, which is still not enough in red zone. You know, with this guy's support, if you didn't transform him, you're looking at like 400k defense, which is just about enough. Especially on handling basics against the harder bosses, but super attacks, he would get clapped and die. Some of the earlier red zone stages, he'll be fine, but again, the fact you have to build him up with 10 attacks, yes, the additionals are a great help at that. But, you know, considering how short red zone can be, the fact you need to stack him up with 10 attacks, it's not ideal for red zone, and his defense isn't ideal, but his damage output, especially combined with the units that are with him, are very helpful. I mean, you consider some of how good the defensive units are around him. LR Janemba, Tech Janemba, Golden Freezers, LR Golden Freezer that's going to be coming on global. You could kind of get away with it, but you still need to be very careful that this guy doesn't get super attacked. And even some of the more difficult bosses like Broly, some of his latter phases, Shenron, and also Metacooler Core now, even their basics may do a bit of damage against him. But there's also items. But as I said, his damage is fantastic for red zone. But yeah, unfortunately defensively he's not ideal, but he still performed really well. He still performed very, very well. It's just unfortunate. I kind of wanted more because I love his EZA. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Don't forget to drop a like, subscribe if you're new. I'll see you in the next video, guys. And peace.